What's up, guys? As always, I'm Shay from the channel Zachary Shay. A little bit of a different setup this week, this month. So this video is kind of a May wrap up, June TBR, but it's also going to be a sneak peek into the prologue of my novel, as well as a title drop. That's going to be pending. You can skip down on the timestamps if you want to just get right to that, or if you want to skip that and you only want to hear about the books. But first, I'm going to discuss some channel news, then I'm going to go into the wrap up, then I'm going to go into the TBR, and then I'm going to talk about why the TBR is a little lighter, just like I said it was going to be in prior videos, and a big part of that is the writing. So I'm going to give you a little sneak peek into that. Also give you a update on where I'm at in my audiobook recording. If you haven't caught up, if you're new to the channel, I have been doing an audiobook recording for one of my favorite authors. I have not revealed what it is on my channel. I've told some friends of mine, but I want to keep that a little bit closer until it's time for release date, and then I'll let you guys know. That way y'all can check it out. So first off, channel news. I recently joined a Discord called the Bookstreet Boys. This is with Preacher Reads, Nerd Level Rising, Christopher Navo, Chance Dillon, Bearded Book Beast, Spaced Out Wizard, and I believe that is everyone. I really hope I didn't forget anybody. But so they asked me to join the Bookstreet Boys. Very honored. I was not expecting that to happen this early or at all, and I'm very grateful to Preacher especially. Super awesome dude. I recently just did a collab video with him where we talk about our favorite books under a 3.85 rating. Spoiler alert, I went Book of Elsewhere. In other channel news, I recently did an interview with Chance Dillon, author of Mercy, Tears of the Fallen, and I will probably, depending on when you're watching this, be releasing that very soon if I have not already. Definitely won't be much longer after this video is put out at the absolute latest. I also recently did a collaboration with Samwise that should already be up. Aside from that, I did a talk with Bookish Daddy. Super nice guy. You should check his channel out. We actually found out that we both like Name of the Wind, and we both like Dresden Files. And let me see. I think that's it. In terms of videos I have coming out, I have a video on my top 5 favorite necromancers. I also have a review of Hills of Heather and Bone coming shortly. And I hope to do a conversation with the marvelous Janie Wirtz here shortly. We haven't filmed it yet, but it should be filmed within the next week. So that'll be fun. So on to my reading wrap up. So first of all, I read Sins of the Mother by Rob J. Hayes. I did the audiobook, brilliant audiobook by Moira Quirk. I gave this a 4 out of 5, but it's honestly teetering to like a 3.75. What pushed it to that 4 is the ending was brilliant. And, Rob J. Hayes is always great at characterization. I do think this was the weakest of the 4 novels we've got so far. And mainly because it just had a lot of setup for book 5, because it almost felt like book 3 was the end of a trilogy, and then book 4 was the beginning of a duology. But there was so much time to catch up on between 3 and 4. And this is the thing with the War Eternal, I think is intentional, but it also, sometimes it's not my thing, where it'll like build up a lot of things in a very similar vein to Sun Eater, where he references events a lot and then you see those transpire. Well, sometimes in War Eternal, the things that he builds up to a ton are the things that he kind of glosses over, and then it's a lot of smaller things that he actually goes in detail on. And sometimes this is used very effectively, and it is a good subversion of what you're expecting. Other times it can fall a little flat. Overall, I'd say 4 though, because I thought the ending of this was really, really strong, and the series as a whole is still sitting at like a 4.5 for me. I gave book 1 and book 2 5 stars, and then books 3 and 4 stars. But as I said, this is teetering closer to like a 3.75. I wouldn't go 3.5. I think it's a little bit better than that, but I would put this slightly below book 3. Except for the ending was a 5 out of 5. The ending was amazing. It has me really hyped to read book 5. But that was my lowest ranked book of the month. And then I'm going to go with, and this was a big surprise to me because I kind of felt a little burnt out because I read so many of these books back to back to back. But I read Ghost Story, book 13 in the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. I thought that this was great. I went into it with kind of adjusted expectations because I've heard from some fans that Ghost Story is the weakest to the Dresden books. I did not get that. I thought Harry Dresden was at his funniest. I thought the entire cast shined. Waldo Butters has always been a favorite of mine. He was great. Murphy was great. Molly was great, as always. Yeah, just really stellar cast, really stellar installment in the Dresden Files series. I've heard that this one feels like a side quest, and it did in a way, but a side quest that paid off, and I gave this 4.5 stars. And then I read Queen Amid Ashes, which is a novella published between Howling Dark and Demon in White in the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. Queen Amid Ashes was a 5 stars. I thought it was a really great novella. I listened to it in like one commute because I had to go to Katy, Texas. I live in the Woodlands, so it's quite a drive, like an hour and a half to buy scrubs for I'm going to school in August for nursing. I'll be a junior, and I got accepted in the nursing program. I had to buy all the scrubs. So one afternoon, like literally the drive there, the drive back, I finished Queen Amid Ashes. So it was a really quick read. It was a 5-star read. It was amazing. I don't think it's essential for the Sun Eater series at all. I think if anything, it's less essential than the Lesser Devil, because like with the Lesser Devil, you still have those lingering thoughts of like what became of Crispin. So I do recommend the Lesser Devil more, even though I thought Queen Amid Ashes was a better novella. Both are amazing though. I gave Lesser Devil, I think 4.5. So yeah, Christopher Rocchio, he's never written anything below 4 stars for me, and I thought that this was brilliant. And then number 1, surprising no one, if you've seen even one video on my channel, is Ships of Merior / Warhost to Vastmark. I'm including them as one book. Man, if I had to like say which part was higher, I think Ships of Merior, I enjoyed the journey a ton, but the payoff in Warhost is phenomenal. Oh my goodness, the characters of Dakar, of Talith, of Durkin, of Tharic. I mean, every single character in this series feels so incredibly human, with the exception, okay, I understand that Lysair is a nuanced character. I hate his guts. I've hated his guts since pretty early on. I feel like I was picking up on things, some toxic traits in him. I don't hate his guts. I just think he's very self-righteous. Like, I understand some of his viewpoints, and I think he's a well-written villain, but man, does he piss me off. But yeah, 5-star. I doubt I'll ever read a Wars of Light and Shadow book that's below a 4.5. So far, they've all been 5s. Even if I had to separate Warhost and Ships into 2 separate books, I would give each of them 5 stars. All right, so we're going to go into what I am reading next month. So first up, I have started on audio Demon in White and Gardens of the Moon. I'm about halfway through both of these audiobooks. I was going really quickly through Gardens on audio because it's a reread, and I'm actually rereading it with David from Four Corners and Preacher from Preacher Reads. So Dustin and David, 2 Ds. Anyway, Dustin and David were, I don't want to say lagging behind because they were around the same area I was, but there was a little bit of a discussion in the group chat about being a little bit fantasied out. And so I took a break from Gardens and I started Demon in White, but then David started trucking along through Gardens, but I'm in the middle of Demon in White and I don't want to stop. Maybe if I get to a good stopping point within the narrative, I'll go back and finish Gardens, but I'm about halfway through Gardens and I'm about a third of the way through Demon in White. I will definitely finish both of these audiobooks next month. And in terms of planning out my audio TBR past this, I kind of want to leave that open. Odds are it'll be a Dresden book or that Final War Eternal book. And probably not a Sun Eater book, even though I love the Sun Eater audio. I kind of want to read the short story collection before I go on to Kingdoms of Death. And as for my physical reads, so I have one book that I've been excited to get to, one alpha read, and then 2 buddy reads. So I'm planning on reading 4 books next month. If I read a 5th one, physical, it'll probably be Sorcerer's Legacy by Janie Wirtz. But for sure, I'm going to read Mercy Book 2, titled TBD or TBR, to be revealed. But yeah, I'm going to read Chance Dillon's second book, Alpha Read It. I won't be issuing it a review because this is an alpha read, and I will probably read it again when it's released, or at least whenever the arcs go out. But I have promised him that I will alpha read it. He offered me to be second batch alpha readers, which who knows, something could happen and I could not get to it, and that may be what I have to do. I'm still hoping to be in that first round of alpha readers. I'll be cutting it really close, but I think I'll be able to do it. I'm essentially starting like right now after filming this video. And then I'm reading Bold Ascension by Von Roycroft. This is the third month in a row that I've said I'm going to read this. And it's not because I don't love this series. It's because Janny Wirtz' series took longer than I thought. And then there was the Malazan read along. And then there, just a lot of things. And then I'm also going to get into the projects. This is what this stack is right here. But yeah, Bold Ascension is definitely happening this month. Also definitely happening this month, and I thank God that they're slightly shorter reads, but we have The Road by Cormac McCarthy, which I am reading with Chris from the first chapter, Anna from Russia with Books, and my good friend, well, they're all good friends, but David from Four Corners of the Page. David and Anna kind of sold me and Chris on this, so I asked Chris to be in the buddy read, and then we were like, screw it, it's not that big of a book. What if they want to do a reread? So we're doing a 4-person buddy read. Should be fun. And then I'm doing a buddy read with my good friends Jake from Nerd Level Rising and Sam from Samwise. We're going to be doing Lord Foulsbane. It's going to be a lot of fun because I'm reading this with two people a lot smarter than myself, so they can do all the legwork. I'm going to go in a little detail about why I'm only reading 3 to 4 books this coming month and just finishing off the 2 audiobooks I have. So I've been hard at work on this little audiobook. I have the printed prose in this folder. I'm not going to reveal what it is, but I will say that I am 33% done with that audiobook, and things should be going more quickly. I've kind of honed my process down. So again, I'm hoping by the end of June to be at the 60% mark. And then something I can give a little bit more insight into, because this is purely at my own pace. I have finished polishing to the point, well, it's not even polished. It's pretty rough actually, but it's I rewrote the prologue to my novel, and I actually want to share that with y'all. So, and then I'm going to announce the title and give you some early cover art. It's not finalized yet, just like the prologue's not finalized. But I thought, sharing it with you guys would be fun, and who knows, I may edit this out later and you're not actually seeing this. But the name of my novel, at least where it stands right now, is Requiem, Dreams for the Sleepless. It is a epic fantasy, Lovecraftian inspired, steampunk-esque epic fantasy. It's a standalone in a world that I plan to write 2 or 3 more standalones in, depending on where I'm at after this whole editing process is done. And I'm going to read you the prologue. Requiem, Dreams of the Sleepless. Prologue. We all become dust, whether by raging flame or the slow decay of time. Not remains of us, but ash and dirt, scattered to time's merciless gale. Our stories are but a blink compared to the breadth of epochs, but they form our testimony against time's march, our stubborn resolve against the chaos of the realms, our middle finger to destiny, and our fuck you to fate. Daring reader, I do not wish to stifle your courage, for what do you mortals have if not your bravery, your defiance? It is perhaps these very traits that endears our kind to yours. Read on, but I will not have you go blind as the lamb before the shepherd's sharpened blade. If you have labored to find this tome, if you have deciphered this decrepit wizard's writing, penned in a language that was long forgotten before humanity's inception, then you deserve to know what type of story this isn't. If you track these pages down to glean the tale of how Ilriel's second son came to reside beyond the ocean of souls, you may find yourself unsatisfied by the words transcribed here. Second son of the moon, lord of night, and high prince of the starlings, each title a prison, each ill-bestowed expectation a weight upon his half-mortal shoulders. Yet even the greatest of those expectations weighs far less than the many burdens of his slaughtered people. But that story is not mine to recount, nor will I attempt it. If you have devoted your life to languages, resigned years of your brief existence to the etymology of elven tongues, all to transcribe this account in the hopes that you may learn of the fate of the sea goddess they once worshipped, I will relieve you of those assumptions before you waste any more of your precious time. Aliel's fate is unknown even to my sorcery, and though the turning of millennia have lessened my empathy for mortals despite my desires to the contrary, I cannot help but spare a moment of regret for the last mortal to hold a sliver of the elf goddess's power. Her temper was torrential, rage frothing like waters before the storm, Aja's last warrior princess. For those inquisitive enough to find these pages intact and with the knowledge requisite to read them, if we were to meet, you might recall to me one such inquisitive mind. She was a monster, and though this is not her story, she does feature in the telling. War makes monsters or corpses of each of us, and none know this better than the consul that bled for the nation that butchered her brothers and stretched the neck of her father. A woman scarred by loss and scorched by fire will seldom shy away from the things that need to be done. But the allure of power is like a flame to the moth, and the insect cares not for the flare's scorching touch. And lastly, for those few who think they have stumbled upon some great and noble epic, something to be sung around a tavern merry with drink and warmed by hearth-fire, I warn this is no minstrel's account you find between your mortal hands. I wish this was some bard's tale, where our heroes escape whole and hale. Alas, not all tales can be so civil as all such fairy tales and drivel. There is a bard in this story, though I wish he could have been spared his part in everything that came to pass. Enough about what this story is not. It is time I told you what it is, and all stories must have a beginning. It is hard to discern where this story begins, as it is with all stories. Nothing ever truly begins, and take that from one who was there when the continents were called forth from the bottomless oceans. Every story and every beginning has arisen from what has come before. I choose to begin our tale with the courier's mission. Moira carried a message meant to stop an assassination that would see the Veyron Empire shattered. It was a missive that might have spared the life of an indulgent and apathetic despot at the cost of saving many innocent lives. She entered through the east gate near the Luzic district of Larnia's third tier. It was expected for inbound riders to stable their mounts before entering the city proper, but no guard would stop a member of the Emperor's Couriers Guild adorned in the uniforms of black and gray. Crowds of commoners congested streets simmering with an ill-won peace, bought and paid for with the deaths of Eastern children. I won't waste parchment apologizing for either of my brother's faults. Wars and causes will crop up wherever you find two peoples separated by a river. That doesn't mean I don't lament the loss. Though as I have told you before, my empathy is a commerce that has been spent through the years, and it is very seldom that I can find myself paying such fees of late. She whistled to get the crowd's attention, and they scattered at her warning, wary of trampling hooves. She made her way to Larnia's first tier, but before she reached the gates, she was sidetracked. A whispering murmur drew her down an alley littered with refuse. Some of the back ways so narrow that the mare barely fit, and the mount tried to back out many times, but the whisper in Moira's head insisted upon the path. The tavern sign displayed a dead man with a noose necklace. The signage's poorly rendered image was accompanied by 4 scrawled words: "The hangman's last respite." The courier's bladder burned, and long miles on dusty roads built up a thirst in her that cried out for cold beer. She threw the reins over the railing surrounding the patio outside the tavern's entrance, tying a half-hearted knot before she entered the threshold. She looked back at her mare, the need to release reaching a painful state. If the horse had issue with her lack of decorum, she didn't voice her concerns. Being a courier, Moira very seldom relied upon the hospitality of taverns. The guildhouse lodged her as part of her salary. However, since her drunken tussle in the sheets with her superior, the one-time home had felt all too unwelcoming. "I think I am in love with you." His voice had been lilting, and the use of the word think did little to hide his overbearing adoration. He had been flirtatious and mildly charming, and she had been more than mildly drunk, so she had instigated the casual dalliance. She laughed at his comment in an attempt to make it less real, but when she looked at his withering countenance, her eyes perceived a pain made all too tangible. He joined in the laughter, but his eyes were mirthless, miserable. They hadn't spoken since then, aside from him issuing her various assignments. Opening the door to the tavern, the courier felt a sharp and intense stab of pain, as if a needle were plunged into her cerebrum. Upon her recovery, she was greeted with a yellow light that just barely kept the pervasive twilight from without at bay. The embers in the hearth were only the warm remnants of the heat that had all but died. She felt the weight of the imperial missive in her coat pocket. If a courier were to lose a sealed document, or worse, deliver the message with the wax unicorn sigil broken, their life would be forfeited without a modicum of ceremony. The tavern was empty save the silent bartender methodically polishing the oaken bar. On a night like this, it should have seemed odd that no patron sat at any of the tables. And yet Moira's discontentment was quieted by the soft hum of music that sounded to her ears like the forgiveness of her uncountable transgressions. She sat at the bar and opened her mouth to ask for a cold beer, intent on ordering her drink before she relieved her bladder grown heavy from hours in the saddle. The bartender sheathed 9 inches of steel through her right eye and out the back of her skull. "One beer, please," Moira said calmly as blood gushed from her eye and she emptied her bladder on the tavern's floor. The bartender, that was not a man, reached into her coat and retrieved a missive sealed with the sigil of the Veyron unicorn. With a precise flick, he flung the envelope in the ever-dying hearth fire. That done, the creature wiped away the girl's gore before folding the rag into a neat square. Careful 3-fingered hands creased the cloth into crisp corners clean, save the marring of courier's blood. Using the unbloodied side, he continued polishing the bar. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you again a month from now or I've got, as I've mentioned earlier in the video, I've got some other content coming out, so peace.